Hey guys, in this month's issue of Shimbun, in an article on how well you really know kata, Sensei Anthony Ryan says, referring to stances, of Gichin Funakoshi's 20 precepts of karate, number 17 was, formal stances are for beginners, black belts use natural postures. Sensei Anthony says, he didn't mean that black belts can stand up in stance. He meant that by the time we get to black belt, it should be natural to land in a long, strong stance. And I really wanted to challenge that interpretation. You know, it's clear if you look at fight footage that people don't spend any time really in long, so-called strong stances. Even if you just consider Zenkutsu Dachi to be a transitional stance, you really don't see professional fighters spend any time in that stance at all. To suggest that what Funakoshi actually meant was that that once you reach black belt, that you can get into Zenkutsu Dachi or Kokutsu Dachi naturally without thinking about it, I think is a complete misrepresentation. In the first instance, guys, original karate stances were not long and deep. Long, deep stances were created for exercise purposes. When Funakoshi was teaching university students, he discovered that they were so unfit that they first of all needed conditioning, so that their bodies were ready to undertake the karate that they had to do. And this is the cover of Funakoshi's first karate book, Karate Jutsu, and if you can see here, this is a Zenkutsu Dachi stance. That's maybe 1.5 shoulders long, and this is a Kokutsu Dachi stance, a back stance, and that's also a similar sort of length. So the exaggerated stances that we have today are not really functional for fighting. So you know, I would say that what Funakoshi meant is not that that black belts or experts automatically form exaggerated stances, rather that black belts automatically find proper stances. You know, the Japanese are very concerned with the idea of properness, and in this case I think it's, you know, often it's a term that's used, I think, in a kind of a prissy way to prescribe behaviour for you, to tell you what you can and can't do, the proper way of sitting, the proper way of bowing. But in this particular instance, sorry guys, in this particular instance, I think it's very appropriate that, you know, a proper way of standing is a way which is most appropriate. Now, when you are being taught in a class environment, Funakoshi was fortunate that he learnt from two excellent martial artists in a one-on-one environment, and that means that everything they said can be customized precisely for his specific body and physiology. But the realities of teaching karate in a class environment where you have multiple students means that you need to come up with formulae which describe stances and postures and ways of moving in such a way that they can be understood by all of the students in one go. Sorry, I just noticed my collar, I hope it's not spazzing. So, for example, if I'm trying to say to somebody, form this stance or that stance, I don't have the time to go around and say, you know, customize it for each person. So what I'll do is I'll come up with a formula such as 2 shoulders long or 1 shoulder wide, which serves as a good approximation. However, if you look at people as they progress, there comes a point. I haven't talked about this on this channel, but I will be talking about it in the future. The concept of shuhari, which is the 3 stages of martial arts growth. In step 1, shu, that's monkey see, monkey do, I guess you'd say, where you just copy everything that your instructor says, parrot fashion, and that's very much the stage at which you learn your stances. You get told how to do them, and because you're in a class environment with lots of other students, your sensei just tells you dimensions, uniform dimensions to form in your stance. And then in the second stage, heart, that's where you kind of start to customize your stances according to yourself. And I would say that that would be the equivalent of a kind of a black belt level, where you realise, well, actually, Zenkutsu Dachi is not exactly 2 shoulder widths long. It's the correct distance for you to get the effect that you want to get. So for me, for example, I don't have very strong legs. I'm okay, but you know, I have a pullback. So for me to move into a stance 2 shoulders long, I can't engage my hips. So for me, 1.5 shoulders is probably far more appropriate, which is more in line with the original teachings of Funakoshi and his far more esteemed teachers anyway. So now that I am a bit more experienced, I understand that in order to make the stances work effectively for me, I'm not trying to do some performance kata aesthetic based upon the look of the stance. I'm looking for a stance that has the qualities of the stance, you know, that so for example, Zenkutsu Dachi enables me to move my weight forwards to ground myself as I step forwards and deliver a strong forward thrusting motion. Or say Shikodachi enables me to lower my weight so that I can get in underneath somebody, or so that I can lower my centre of gravity to pull somebody down, or so that I can slide in underneath their guard, something like that. Or Kibidachi, which enables me to have a fairly low grounded sideways on stance. You know, each stance has its innate qualities to it. And I would suggest that as you move on in your experience, that rather than trying to form specific stances, that you move into a posture which is appropriate to the situation, and that posture is not a textbook version of any of the stances you've learned in the dojo, you know. There are times when you'll form a Sanshin-like stance, but it won't be like the classroom version of a stance, just as a fight will not be like the classroom version of a kata. They're just starting points. And to suggest that you will automatically move into these textbook stances, and that's a sign of maturity, I think is well, not to be disrespectful, but I think that's a rather naive interpretation. I think a far more accurate interpretation is that you move into the stances that do what the stances are supposed to do, and that's why I think it's a pity, really, as you move on up the grades, that you're expected to be able to form these stances with ever greater precision, and your ability to actually derive the function of the stances is never tested. So if you go for a black belt grading, if you can't form a Kokutsu Dachi with your back foot exactly 90 degrees and your stance 2 shoulders long and your weight 1/3 from the back, then that could be enough to fail a grading. But in actual fact, what that says is the more experience you get, the more you have to be able to form the appearance of the stances, not their effort, not their intention. So I would say that a far better way of carrying out gradings would be to say, at black belt, okay, let's test your Kokutsu Dachi. Okay, let's see if you can pull me off balance moving backwards, or let's see you move quickly out of range of a punch and fade your body away from a punch, or you know, let's see you grounded in that stance, or Shikodachi, let's see you lift somebody, let's see you pull me off balance in your Shikodachi. Zenkutsu Dachi, let's see you deliver a strong forwards punch or a strong forward shove in that stance and remain in balance. You know, it's been argued often that that competition has ruined the function of karate, and I definitely agree with that. That trying to follow an aesthetic ideal rather than the functional ideal has undermined what people train for, and the same with stances. You know, that our stances are rarely tested for the function that they are actually designed for. They're just tested with a look rather than with a physical force, and that really doesn't do any of us a good service, I don't think. You take care, guys.